Good morning, everybody. Welcome to FAWKES News. Big show for you guys today, covering a lot of things, everything from a whole bunch of racist hoaxes that have popped up recently. One of them, not so recent, but she just was found guilty of it. This also plays into some kind of like mayoral race fraud. Talk about it here in just a second. We've also got this strange death. We have a strange death from Jessica, who was in a, let's see here. I'm sorry, Jessica Aber. She died from a medical condition prior to her death. And then we've got to talk about a couple of other things today as far as the Coast Guard goes, the Navy goes, a lot of things going. At the last second, I will be honest with you, our producer had to bow out of the show because he was in intense pain. You know, Deadleg has his problems. And so just moments before the show, we're all trying to shuffle things around. But I promise you that after this little intro, I will be smooth sailing from there. So stick around. Today's show is brought to you by ghostbed.com/Wolfpack. We've also got Shieldbox, promo code Wolfpack, and factormeals.com/Wolfpack. Today is our long formatted political show. If you guys were around yesterday, we had some breaking news that came out yesterday, and I encourage you to go back and watch that episode. A lot of foreshadowing there. I always like to do those shows, those Tanstradamus shows. Without further ado, let me bring on my guest host for today, Jason from One More, and I'm out of here. Again, I'm playing producer, and I am so sorry, everybody, that I'm playing producer today. So I'm a little bit behind the curve. Help me out here, Jason. How are you doing this morning, brother?
Good, brother. Sorry, Deadleg's not here, but we'll put on a good show.
It's okay. I just got flustered here at the last second, as I always do. That's why it's important. That's why we love having Deadleg around. It's so important to have a producer. You don't know what you have until it's gone. Jason, you don't know how good you got. I can't imagine having to do a podcast where I have to do all of the work all of the time. That would be terrible. So I'm so thankful that we have Josh, and I hope he gets better this morning. Yesterday, I mean, okay, so like today we've got there's so much news, and this is why I like independent journalism, because we get to cover all the things that mainstream media isn't really covering, which I didn't know at the time when I started doing independent media. I didn't know at the time that what the mainstream media puts out is actually more fluff than it is worthwhile information.
Yeah, I mean, they, like you said, they fluff around it, but then when you're trying to get to the root of like what the story is, you're sitting there swimming through a bunch of crap.
You are, and it's wild because, like we covered yesterday, pretty not bombshell. I don't want to be hyperbolic with you folks today. I don't want to be hyperbolic. I do get excited. However, I will say that connecting the dots on yesterday's show to kind of show how imminent war is and how no matter what, the industrial military complex is going to get us into another war, whether we like it or not. When you start connecting the dots, it's really fun. And then we have this breaking Hedgeseth story, where he leaks on an encrypted text chat to one of the most audacious journalists in our times about potential war plans. Of course, they were carried out this weekend over Yemen against the Houthis. And then this journalist releases the information. And of course, everybody on the left-wing media is salivating and going crazy over really nothing. If anything, I think that Headset and everybody looks really good in this adult-like conversation that they were having in an encrypted text. Are you familiar with that story?
Yeah, I haven't deep dived into it, but part of it confuses me in the fact that it almost seems, for the left, too good to be true. In the fact that it's served up on this platter for them. And of course, my phone started going ape shit, from people that follow our podcast, because obviously, the way that Dan and Andrew and I all lean, my phone, I mean, it was almost on fire.
Is the critical thinking minds that are now in the White House and using the critical thinking skills against their adversaries is funny to me. It's laughable to me because I feel like really the Trump movement or the Trump party is literally playing chess when it seems like the Democrat Party is barely even playing checkers. Like, I don't even think that this is at checkers level with everything going on. And I'm not just saying that. Listen to me. I have the evidence to back this up. I mean, there's things that are going on in the Democratic Party. People are, what's going on between Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. It's absolutely diabolical. It's all falling apart. Remember, everybody was huge fans of Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. They could do no wrong, even though it was obvious that Nancy Pelosi, through very nefarious means, kind of orchestrated January 6th. And I mean that by saying she was given multiple opportunities and told by multiple advisors that they needed to bring in the cavalry because they were going to have 250,000 to 500,000 people that were politically charged coming down on Washington, D.C., coming off of the heels off of very politically unrest, BLM type movements, a lot of riots, a lot of burnings, a lot of protests. I will be fair. They weren't all riots, but a lot of them were. A lot of them were. I know people are like, well, I don't like it when you call them riots. They were protests, and it's our, it's our First Amendment. Okay, some of those were riots, and you can't deny that some of those were riots, and some of them were protests. So we have the protests, the riots, very politically charged. She doesn't bring in what she's supposed to bring in for no apparent reason. There's no, I talked to Capitol Police supervisors. They said, listen, man, we bring in off duty all the time to work these stupid things. All of the time. And then the one time that we actually need it, they're not going to bring them in. We're not going to use we're not going to use DC Metro. We're not going to use the National Guard. I mean, it made absolutely no sense. And it was because it was all setting up. Again, you've got these pipe bombs that were laid by allegedly a black female wearing Jordans in the middle of the night in front of the RNC. Just a lot of things that were kind of set up. And then if you want to go back with the playing checkers, now we have, so that was when you guys were in love with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. And now all of a sudden, everybody's turning their backs on them. Of course, we can go back to the whole Joe Biden debacle and saying that, he's mentally fit and he's well and he's good and the decisions he's making are great. And then in one debate, everybody's like, no, never mind. It's terrible. And then you go through with this other, again, playing checkers, putting Kamala Harris up to run for you. Absolutely bonkers. And then we're spending millions of dollars having players like Beyonce showing up, creating massive traffic jams. Again, everything that the left was trying to do respectfully. I'm saying this, I'm not trying to shit on the left here, but everything that they did respectfully was just blowing up in their face. It was almost as if they were trying to lose the election. And of course, the next election is not really looking much better because of this new AOC and Bernie Sanders alleged movement, where they've already found that all of these phones through geo-tracking are phones of paid actors, are paid influential protesters and people who do nothing in life but protest. So we'll see how that plans out. I can't think of a better running. I can't think of somebody better to run against President Trump than AOC and Bernie Sanders. I would love to see it, to be honest with you. I mean, I think this is quality entertainment. However, it goes in deeper because I want to get into our first story today, which is the Colorado Springs woman pleads guilty to charge related to crime hoax. This is from justice.gov. The United States Attorney's Office for the District of Colorado announces that Deanna West, 38, pleaded guilty today to one count of maliciously conveying false information about a threat by means of fire, a burning cross in front of a campaign sign, defaced with a racial slur. According to the plea agreement, West and two other defendants, Derek Bernard Jr. and Ashley Blackcloud, participated in a conspiracy to spread disinformation about the threat. It's really funny, I've said it a million times, that what the left accuses the Trump party of doing, they are guilty of doing twofold.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, absolutely. Yeah. When disinformation, and then we look at all the real disinformation, the Breonna Taylor disinformation, the George Floyd disinformation. We look at the Michael Brown disinformation. Lots, we look at the Russian hoax disinformation. We look at the Hunter Biden laptop disinformation, the Ashley Biden disinformation, what the left is accusing the Trump, and they get called out on it time and time again, and they just continue to do it. So here we go. Conspiracy to spread disinformation. The 2023 Colorado Springs mayoral runoff election involved candidate one, who was black. Okay. Thank you. I guess. Thank you, Justice.gov. And candidate two, who was white. I see what they're doing here. It has to be black and white because it does show the racism here. After the initial election, but before the runoff, one defendant, sent a message in which he explained he was mobilizing my squad in defense. Black Ops style Big Brother, end quote. Let me read that again. Quote, mobilizing my squad in defense. Black Ops style Big Brother, end quote. He also sent a message referencing a desire to prevent, quote, the Klan from gaining political control of the city. Bernard then worked with Black Cloud and West to stage at the intersection in the city of Colorado Springs in the early hours of April 23rd, 2023, a cross burning in front of a campaign sign for candidate one, defaced with a racial slur. The three then allegedly spread false information about the event through an email from anonymous sources to various news and civic organizations. United States District Court Judge Regina Rodriguez presided over the hearing. West will be sentenced June 13th, 2025, and the other two defendants are awaiting trial. We do have a live chat here. Folk around and find out. We've got Tyler S., Mer 530, Bones Cold, David J. up there. The list goes on. Appreciate you guys all being there. I'd like to know in the live chats, though, on the live YouTube chats, what do you think the punishment should be for staging a racial... what would you call this, Jason?
Almost like a racial coup.
Yeah, right. A racial hoax coup where we're trying to literally throw an election based on some kind of false allegation of racism. A burning cross. One, I mean, that's got to be some kind of an arson charge. Is lighting a cross on fire in front of a campaign sign in the middle of a city, is there some kind of arson crime there?
I would the
firefighter?
At the very least, an open burning ticket. At the very least.
Is there a crime for lighting a cross on fire and putting it in somebody's yard? Is there an additional crime? Like, let's say I put a couch in somebody's yard and I light the couch on fire. Is that a crime?
Yeah, that could be arson, depending on where in the vicinity of a house and the potential for injury and all of that. That all weighs into it. But arson's a very hard charge to convict. But with this, where they put the cross in front of, I can't remember his name now. It's escaping me, the candidate, but in front of his sign, I would think, and you're the cop, but I would think that could be a hate crime because he's a black individual. Now, granted, there's some behind the scenes shit that's going on with this because it was to make it seem like he was being targeted, even though they were with him. But technically, that could be a hate crime, I would think.
Armory Knight says 5 years in federal prison, no probation sentence. Here's why I bring this up. This is why it's important, because that happened a few years ago, but guess what happened this week? Here we go. Let me bring up a picture for you really quick. I want to show you this picture. And again, we don't have a producer, so I'm doing it all myself. I apologize. The show's normally not like this chaotic. Maybe we just need to lean into it and just have a little bit more fun. So this is LaTarsha Brown, and she is part of this school district. And let me just read this for you guys, because I think this is what they call this is how New York Post puts it. PA city worker accused of staging a hate crime hoax after allegedly planting a noose at her desk. Now, this was published March 25th. This is yesterday. A Pennsylvania city worker, and we're going to talk about what kind of city worker she was accused Monday of staging a fake hate crime after she allegedly planted a noose at her desk. Now, take a listen to the actual charges. Here we go.
Including interviews of persons, analysis of evidence, or fabricating physical evidence that a warrant has.
I'm fast forwarding through this to save you up. Here we go.
Good afternoon, everybody. Captain Melkovitz, Criminal Investigations Division. On January 10th, 2025, at approximately 7:11 a.m., Allentown City employee LaTarsha Brown arrived at her office on the third floor of City Hall. At approximately 7:38 a.m., Ms. Brown notified the Allentown Police Department that she discovered what she believed to be a noose on her desk upon arriving at work. Officers assigned to the Community Outreach Unit, Crime Scene Identification Unit, and Criminal Investigations Unit responded, initiating a criminal investigation to identify the individual responsible for placing the noose on Ms. Brown's desk. During the investigation, video surveillance and building access control records were reviewed to identify city employees present on the third floor of City Hall between the time Ms. Brown left for work on the afternoon of January 9, 2025, and her arrival on the morning of January 10th. Those employees were interviewed. Each was asked if they would provide a buccal swab for DNA testing if needed. Every employee agreed, except for Ms. Brown. Initially cooperative, Ms. Brown later requested that the investigation be discontinued. The noose was submitted to the Pennsylvania State Police Crime Lab for DNA testing on January 14, 2025. On January 24, 2025, a search warrant was approved by the Lehigh County District Attorney's Office for Ms. Brown's DNA, and a DNA sample was obtained that same day. On January 27, 2025, Ms. Brown's buccal swab was submitted to the Bethlehem Regional Crime Lab of the Pennsylvania State Police for comparison with DNA profiles recovered from the noose. On March 10, 2025, the Forensic DNA Division of the Pennsylvania State Police issued a written report indicating that Ms. Brown's DNA matched the DNA profile obtained from the swabs of both the outer surface and inner knotted portion of the noose after it was taken apart. No other person's DNA profiles found on the evidentiary items involved in this investigation. As a result of this investigation earlier today, Detective Harold Bonds of the Allentown Police Department filed charges against LaTarsha Brown at District Court 31-2-01 for the criminal offenses outlined earlier by Chief Roca.
So there you go. I wanted to play that in its totality for you. She worked for the Allentown School Board District. She was running for president of the school board. Again, what do you guys think about this in the chats? I mean, this is crazy. So like here we have to retard our political kind of election. Remember the Gretchen Whitmer case? Like where they were trying to prove, like where they staged, where the FBI staged a federal kidnapping. You know what I mean? I always go back to that. It's so bizarre that happened, that the Gretchen Whitmer thing happened. Then if you remember, do you remember this? This is another big one. And again, this is a big problem. This is an issue. Like this isn't isolated events. Michael Bennett. Do you remember Michael Bennett?
Yeah.
He was a football player. What do you remember what team he played for?
The Seahawks.
The Seattle Seahawks. So he did this as well, and he got caught. Now, this guy never apologized. This guy, I don't think he got in any trouble for it. Let me find the article here. So yeah, and okay. So by the way, when I tried to find an article, anything about Michael Bennett, it's been like scrubbed from the internet. Yeah, I had to go to outkick.com to find this. And I remember that. That's why I remember the story when it came out, because I was still doing political news, and it was like right around the same time frame that LeBron James was like, he had the graffiti, the racist graffiti that the cops could never, and he has like cameras and stuff. And they were like, actually, we don't know. And then they dropped all of it. Like they just ceased to talk about any of it. And it was almost like, did LeBron James, like you have to ask the question, like, did LeBron James kind of do a Jesse Smollett here? Since we have no more information. Well, Michael Bennett, this is according to outkick.com, Michael Bennett, so hang on. ESPN gives lying, race baiting, fraud Michael Bennett on air platform to lecture police. Michael Bennett is a lying, race baiting fraud. Anyone with functional brain knows this to be true if they paid attention to the lies he told about 3 minority policemen in Las Vegas this past summer. And then it says, if you're not familiar with the story, I'd encourage you to go read the article. The article has been taken down. However, I was able to go back through Fox News and CBS News, and I was actually able to find to find this story. So I'll read it to you from ESPN as well if you want to see it. So this is actually coming from ESPN, but the only way I was able to find this through ESPN was actually going to outkick.com to find the hyperlink link to ESPN. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's big roundabout circle and then a figure 8 in between, but yeah, you found it.
Right. But you see what I'm saying though? Like this is a big story about Michael Bennett, but somehow the internet just decided that like you don't get to know this information about this case. Same with the whole LeBron James thing. Yep. So I found the ESPN thing. So let me jump over there because it's a much more credible source than Outkick. Police said Friday that they found no evidence that officers used excessive force in detaining Seattle Seahawks defensive end Michael Bennett during an August incident in Las Vegas, and that they had reasonable suspicion to make the stop. Bennett has accused police officers of racial profiling, saying they pointed guns at him and used excessive force in the incidents, which occurred outside a nightclub after the August 26th fight between Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Conor McGregor. It was not a nightclub. It was actually a casino, if I remember correctly. The body camera of the officer who initially detained Bennett was not turned on. Clark County Sheriff Joe Lombardo said Friday that police sorted through 861 videos, including body camera videos from other officers and hotel security cameras. Again, it's a casino in Vegas. I know they'd like you to think it's a nightclub so that you don't understand the totality of how many cameras. And again, if we remember the whole Vegas shooting, that we had 2 videos of the shooter going in and out of the casino, but we don't have the other hundreds of videos. But in this instance, we have 861 videos. Okay. That 193 were pertinent to the 193 videos were actually pertinent to the investigation. From there, they said they pieced together a timeline of the incident and played the video for the media at a news conference. They said Bennett's detainment lasted about 10 minutes, 7 of which were spent in a police car. The video shown by police showed an officer with his weapon drawn over Bennett on the sidewalk. Police said Bennett was handcuffed, moved to a police video, and spoken to by another officer who told Bennett that police were looking for an active shooter. After an exchange with the police that lasted a few minutes, police took the handcuffs off of Bennett, and he was told he could leave. Bennett shook one of the officer's hands and walked away. Lombardo said that the internal investigation showed that the officers behaved appropriately and professionally, that the incident was not about race. He said 2 other individuals were also detained in a similar manner, one black and one Hispanic. Now, this is what they're not telling you. Let's go back over to Outkick.com. Here's the real story, or here's the story this is the whole story. Bennett hid and ran from Las Vegas police inside a casino after they responded to reports of a live gunman present. This would unfortunately actually happen a month later with awful results. Bennett lied and said he was a victim of racism, even though video clearly proved he was hiding from police officers, refusing their commands to stop, and he attempted to flee a potential crime scene. Officers understandably detained Bennett for approximately 10 minutes before they could determine that he wasn't a suspect in the shooting, and they released him. It later turned out that when police released all the footage of the incident, including over 100 different camera angles of the incident, the 3 minority police officers, 2 were Hispanic and the other one was black, behaved admirably and in a stressful situation, and treated Bennett with abundant fairness. Indeed, Bennett, who was out that night without even a driver's license in his pocket, told police officers to identify him by looking up his picture on their phones after identifying himself as Michael Bennett, Seattle Seahawks. He was probably even treated better than you or I, because if you or I would have run from the police and had no identification on us, what would that be? Scenario would be. Yet Bennett's accusations of false racism were lead stories on ESPN, Fox, CBS, and NBC. But the moment his racism accusations were proven to be lies by a Las Vegas police investigation and the resulting camera footage of that night, something interesting happened. The story completely disappeared, and virtually no media outlet ever mentioned the fake racism allegations again, just like LeBron James's case.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's crazy. But today, now if Trump's in office, we're able to actually go through the allegations and come up with a criminal complaint, where they find the DNA evidence and everything like that. In fact, Bennett has never apologized for his false accusations and insults directed at people in the Las Vegas police force. Remarkably, no one in the media has ever even asked him to explain himself. They've just pretended the entire story didn't happen.
Of course.
Which brings us to last night on ESPN, the latest episode. And this goes into another a racial feud that they keep bringing up again, this like fake kind of racism thing that's going on. And it just takes me back to, if you guys remember Jussie Smollett, he was caught up in the same type of thing. And so, where do we stand on this? This is wild because overnight we now have a conviction for a woman who tried to throw a mayoral race in Colorado in 2023 by staging a racial hoax. At the same time, yesterday, running for school board president, LaTarsha staging the whole thing. Again, remember the NASCAR thing where it was like he tried to say that there was a noose hanging in his garage.
Bubba Wallace.
Bubba Wallace, yeah. And it was to pull down the garage, and it had been there for like a very long time. Again,
they showed pictures from like 8 years prior. It's still there. And then, the day of the incident.
Right.
Of course, no explanation from him.
Right.
No apology that I'm aware of. And that was a big shitstorm for the longest time.
But I mean, so it just goes back to kind of like this whole what we accuse of the Trump party for being, which is racist. The left does twofold. So here we go. We have this lying, very racist. I mean, this is very racist. This is trying to make white people or a certain race look extremely bad, extremely terrible. I mean, nobody wants.
The easiest way to do it. I mean, that's the easiest out for them. Is throw the race card, because it's so simple, and you're gonna get clicks, you're gonna get sympathy, you're gonna get all of these things in the beginning, until somebody actually does the fact finding to realize that that's not the case. But it's just so easy to just throw that race card out there.
Very interesting cases today, because we have another very racially charged, or kind of just, maybe it's not really racially charged, but it's very ugly and disrespectful. Again, what the left accuses the Trump administration of doing, they do twofold. And I'll say this over and over again because it's true. And it's like, I always remember Hillary Clinton and all the diabolical things she said to incite Trump. And then the minute he piped back at her, he's, that's everybody's go-to thing. Well, it's the things that Trump says. If you talk to anybody that doesn't support Trump, the one thing that they'll say is like, well, he just says just discussing and they think, but they won't show you what they won't admit or acknowledge what Hillary Clinton said about him leading up to him saying ugly things about him, or what Elizabeth Warren and what kind of nasty things that she says. I mean, imagine being called Hitler. Imagine being called a Nazi and not being able to call somebody out for being extremely white, but using stolen valor to get funds and scholarships and everything else through a Native American ancestry that you don't in fact have. And you still never, ever actually fully took responsibility for that, except making excuses about how it's your parents' fault that you think that you're a Native American and that, you identify from there as Native American. Before we get into this next story, which is just insane. This is a story coming out of Texas, a Texas rep calling Abbott a Hot Wheels and calling for violence on Elon Musk publicly. Again, going back to the chats, what do we think the punishment should be for these things? Should we start punishing politicians? Should we maybe just say, like, maybe we clear everybody's slate, but starting today, here's a new executive order. If you partake in these kinds of things, that there are policies and policy violations that you can be held responsible for. We're going to talk about that. But first, we got to talk about GhostBed and how good GhostBed has been to me. If I wouldn't have had a good night's sleep on my GhostBed last night, there's no way I would be able to produce today's show and host today's show by myself. Again, not normal behavior for this show. Just kind of last minute shenanigans has got us all flustered up here. But thank God I had a good night's rest on my GhostBed, and that's why I'm glowing, as they say. Do I look like I'm glowing today?
You are glowing. There's an aura around you.
There's an aura around me. It's called a good sleep aura. And I got that from ghostbed.com/Wolfpack. Beds made in the good old USA. Sleep so good it's scary. The adjustable massage base, the adjustable base with the zero gravity massage mode. If you can afford the whole mattress, the deluxe with that, totally encourage you to do that. If not, they do have the massage topper. And the reason why I bring up the massage topper is because GhostBed sent me one. And I was like, well, I already have a ghost bed, but I don't know that I need a topper. But the topper, you can travel with the topper, which is great. But also the topper, you can move into your living room. And so you can get your back massage while watching a movie with your kids. So if you're watching Tall Tale about Paul Bunyan and John Henry and Calamity Jane with your kids, shoot me in the mouth. Not really what I want to be doing on a Tuesday night, but you can lay on the floor and put on your massage topper and get you a good back massage while you pretend to enjoy this very old Disney classic with Patrick Swayze. But anyway, I'm a big fan of GhostBed and everything that they have to offer. Head over to ghostbed.com because the deal, the 40-50% off, I think is going away. Pretty sure it's either going away April or May. I think he said May. but he said May ? So he said we're going in a different direction with the sale. So let's go ahead and continue the sale for let's do till May. But it was like a May, like a question mark. Again, I'm giving you insider. This is like how I talk to the rep. This is the information you gave. He didn't say I couldn't tell you guys the information. All I'm saying is I'm guessing the deal is going to change. And I bet you it doesn't get better than 40 or 50% off. So I would just go, if you want to invest in your sleep, today is the time to do it. Get yourself a GhostBed. Head over to ghostbed.com/Wolfpack. Also, we have factormeals.com/Wolfpack50. Meal planning to the next level. July 4th is coming. I want to rage on some hot dogs. I do it every year while I celebrate Joey Chestnut, the greatest champion of all time. And I don't want to do it shamelessly. I want to do it guilt-free. And so I diet very hard. You guys know that. Have been following me for a couple of years on Failure to Stop, and now over a year that I diet very, very hard going into July 4th so that I can shamelessly eat many, many hot dogs all day long on July 4th. I like to gain anywhere between 5 and 7 pounds on the day of the 4th of July. So which means I have to lose a lot of weight so that I don't look like a big fat piece of shit. Factor Meals is helping me do that. I hit the calorie conscious. I was protein heavy because I wanted to get jacked doing my jiu-jitsu, but now it's time to cut. It's time to shred up because summer's coming and I want to look shreddy, but not really do I want to look shreddy as much as I want to guiltlessly eat hot dogs. Head over to factormeals.com, chef prepared, fresh, never frozen meals delivered right to your door. Put them in the microwave, 2 minutes or less. You don't have to go to the grocery store. You don't have to go find your Pyrex, Pytex dishes, sort out all your shrimps and your chickens and your beefs and your rices and your beans. And it's all that's confusing. You can jump online. You can beat the traffic. You can beat the hassle of going to the store. Pick out your amazing meals. There's hundreds of different menu variety options. You've got shakes, smoothies. You've got chicken and rice. You got bacon chicken. You got bourbon style chicken, ranch chicken, beef, steak, filet mignon. Thousands of menu items, really great pricing on there. And you can get breakfast and lunch, breakfast and dinner, breakfast, lunch and dinner, whatever you want. Head over to factormeals.com, promo code Wolfpack50. Start your meal planning today. All right, here we go. I want to play this clip for you really fast because I think, I think it's just so telling of the left these days because I'm tired of it, folks. I'm tired of being lumped in on the Trump party as being mean or rude. I haven't unfollowed anybody that's a Democrat, but you know how many messages I get a week of unfollows because of my political views? Do you know how much my book suffers, my hard work that has nothing to do with politics, that's an enjoyable book, that my book suffers a one-star review, one-star review, but it's based on my political beliefs and not the content of the book? You know, when you have the left telling you that they enjoy your book, but they can't get behind you as a person, so therefore they have to give you a one-star review. Instead of just keeping their mouths shut and moving along, they have to ruin your good name and product based on your political beliefs. I find that very disturbing. And again, it's everything that the left tries to accuse me of. Matter of fact, and it's funny because I've been friends with this person, it's 20 plus years, not really a friend. You know what I'm saying, Jason? It's when you have that social media person, you knew them in a past life. You knew them maybe when you were a teenager.
Yeah. Acquaintance who has crossed your path.
Right. And then you've been friends, right? They send you messages, oh, your kids look darling. I'm so proud of you. You've been, you were raised to be such a good guy and all through the years. Happy birthdays. Congratulations on your marriage. Oh, I'm sure you're a great cop. Yada, yada, yada. That person had to send me a message, and low-key send me a message. She didn't call me out by name. It was one of these, I'm so sickened in the people that I really looked up to, and they fell into the MAGA cult. And, sometimes you just have to cut these people go. Well, maybe there was more than one, but I was definitely one of these people cut after this post. Do you know what I'm saying? I never did that. And I don't know, I don't talk to other conservatives that are like, I'm going to come. I've never said if you own a Tesla or if you own, let's say Biden made up a Biden mobile, right? It ran on bullshit.
Okay, great gas mileage.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be like, sell your Biden bullshit car now, or I'm going to not be your friend. And so I'm tired of it, folks. I'm tired of the chastising. I'm tired of having to go places and people being like, well, I got invited to a comedy thing. But they said, we want to invite you to this thing, this comedy thing, but you better leave your Trump bullshit out of it.
Wow. Wow.
And if you ever talk to me in person, personally, outside of podcasting, I don't talk about politics.
Right.
Mainly, I talk about jujitsu, skateboarding, surfing. I talk a lot about TMZ style news. I'm really into like TMZ shit. I like the drama that goes on and stuff. I love watching TV series and I like stand-up comedy. I rarely talk about political issues. I mean, Jason, you know me for a while. We've hung out together. We broke bread together. Do I talk about politics?
No, it's actually probably everything but.
Right? It's probably like, what if they made nachos? But you know what I mean? It's probably like some kind of crazy. I probably make you dumber when I'm not talking about politics, but I'm always accused of being hyper political.
Well, and obviously doing what you do, and especially right now, I mean, you are, but it's not your fault that you are. You know what I mean? It's what's out there.
Have you looked at my Facebook ever?
I try not to.
You ever gander at my Facebook? You ever gandered at my Twitter? You ever gandered at my Instagrams?
Yes, sir.
For every one political post on my Facebook, there are at least 5 or 6 personal posts about my family, about my kids, about skateboarding, jujitsu. I mean, you have to scroll to find a political post from me.
Right.
But when you accuse me of being hyper political and then I go to your Facebook and it's nothing but Trump hate, 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 Trump hate.
It's Trump derangement syndrome.
Profile update, picture of yourself, but with a pro-Ukraine circle around it. Trump update, Trump. You know, who's the one that's hyper political?
Right.
It's you. You're the one that's hyper political, but you're accusing me. Again, what I say is what the left accuses the Trump party of doing, they do twofold. So here we go. Let me play this clip.
Dallas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is being called out by other elected officials for her comments last Saturday at a human rights campaign event.
Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now.
First of all, how is that appropriate? How is that
Absolutely
appropriate?
not.
Let's talk about racism here. It is not appropriate to talk hood ghetto in front of your constituents. It would be inappropriate. Some people are like, well, she's just being herself, Eric. She's just being herself. Okay. You don't like it when Trump beats himself.
Pull up the 700 other videos of her, in a formal, I can't remember if is she a senator or whatever, but in official government chambers, pull up 700 other videos of her speaking. That's not how she speaks when she's at work.
Right. And no, you don't be yourself. When you're talking in a professional setting like she's doing, representing the great state of Texas.
Right.
Her district of Texas. I think it's the 4th district. You don't, when you're representing somebody, you don't talk like that. When I represent Nick Palmisano, because he's my co-author of my book, I call him, message him at the very least before I post something on my personal Instagram page. Why? Because right now and for the next year, I represent Nick Palmisano in trying to get a New York Times bestselling book out. And therefore, everything I do reflects on him. And so I call him and I say, hey, should I post this? Is this a good reflection of you? And he says, Eric, it's your personal Instagram. You can do whatever you want. And I said, no, Nick, it is personal, but at the same time, it's something bigger than myself. See, I don't go to church and try to dress better than the preacher. I don't try to dress nicer than everybody else because my job is not to look the best when I go to church. My job is to be reverent. And by saying, hey, God, you're so important that I'm not just going to wear my rags. I'm going to dress up for you because you're important to me. Just like if you're going to dress up nice to go on a date with a girl, you should dress up to go on a date with God. Your Sunday date with God. If your daughter asked you to go on a date with her, unless you're just a very disrespectful person, you wouldn't show up in fucking camouflage Crocs to your daughter's fucking tea party. Actually, I went to a wedding where the dad wore fucking camouflage Crocs and I thought, wow, how selfish can you be, my friend? Like, my daughter, on my daughter's wedding day, I am going to, but again, it's not about outdoing anybody because you're not doing it for clout, right? We don't want to overdress the groom because it's not about you, dad. right? It's about her, but you're showing reverence. This isn't about her. So she should be reverent. She is representing something bigger than herself, yet she feels the need to go on the stage at once, say something extremely derogatory. Like, that's really fun. If you're a stand-up comedian, let it fly, baby. Let it fucking fly. Matter of fact, the comedian this week that I did stand-up comedy with did a whole skit on getting catfished and then going on a date. The girl was hot. She had great boobs, I guess, in the picture, yada, yada, yada. He shows up on this date. She's in a fucking wheelchair. Then you can't act like you've been catfished because she's in a wheelchair and you would be a real asshole. So he has to continue this date. But he says something, and all I could think of was Hot Wheels. I never even saw this from this lady yet, but I was like, could you call her Hot Wheels? And after the comedy show Sunday night, I said, dude, you've got to put Hot Wheels in as part of your joke because she's hot and she's in a wheelchair. Hot Wheels, get it? And he was like, man, that's funny. So as a comedian, yeah, you can say that shit. As a representative of the district, your district in Texas, no.
And the only thing.
Let me play it again.
Dallas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is being called out by other elected officials for her comments last Saturday at a human rights campaign event.
Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot mess.
Referring to Governor Greg Abbott as Hot Wheels, Abbott was partially paralyzed when a tree fell on him decades ago.
I'm going to move on.
Multiple Texas lawmakers took to social media to condemn Crockett for her remarks. Texas Senator John Cornyn saying, quote, Crockett's comments are disgraceful. Can you imagine if a Republican said something like this? It would be on the front page of the New York Times and all over CNN. I spoke to Crockett Tuesday. She had this to say.
I want you to
quote,
listen to this.
I said that he was a hot expletive mess, referencing his terrible policies. Never at any time did I reference his condition. I am even more appalled that the people that unequivocally support Trump, who is known for racially insensitive nicknames and mocking the uniquely abled, are outraged. Keep this energy up for all people, not just your political adversaries.
On March 29th, it's my birthday. And all I want to see happen on my birthday is for Elon to be taken down.
So, yeah, she can't stop putting her foot in her mouth. Like, again, inciting violence much, way worse than anything Trump said on January 6th. Way worse. Saying that you want to see somebody taken down and you're in a political arena and this person's already being firebombed. His cars are being vandalized horrifically. And again, that's really funny. Like, because a lot of people that own Teslas are from the left. I like that one where the one person shows up and she's like, I'm literally a gay liberal Democrat and you have fucked up my entire car. Doesn't get old, right? But here we have it. Again, calling somebody Hot Wheels like that on the public stage.
Well, yeah,
not a good look.
To capitalize on a disability, for one. Yeah, you've got Trump who calls Gavin Newsom new scum. Okay, right. Whatever. Is it childish? Yeah, probably. Yeah. And then, he's calling Warren Pocahontas.
Yeah.
But she's literally attacking it.
Right, but he did not start calling Newsom until Newsom started calling him Hitler. Like, correct. If you notice that Trump doesn't start mouthing off to people until they start calling him names. Hillary Clinton fired the first shot on Trump. And, we played that clip on here where the debates were going just fine back in the, what was it? 2006, 17, 18, those debates back then. And he was being completely cordial until she took the first shot at him. And then he went fucking off the rails. And then all of a sudden he's such a bully and he's trying to control things. And I'm like, no. And then Biden did it as well in his debate. He took the first shots at Trump and Trump even laughed. And then he took a stab at Trump's golf game. Again, getting very personal, and then it went all downhill from there. So, going back to it, when we talked about all of these lies, right? And I wanted to go back because I forgot to bring up this point. We're starting the Free Daniel Holtzclaw project, where we have inner city hood folks that are admitted to lying in the civil suit, were high on the stand, hyper political on the stand, extremists were in the courtroom, and Daniel Holtzclaw is doing 260 years for a crime that he didn't commit, and there's evidence that proves that he didn't commit these crimes. Yet he's doing 260 years because of hood culture being able to lie without any sense of integrity. They just, without any sense of remorse, without any sense of trying to take it back. We have Michael Bennett, got caught lying, said that the cops were racist, said a bunch of nice things after he ran from the police, refused police commands, hid from the police, refused to give an ID, and all of the cops were of a different racial color than him. I mean, the same, they're not white, right? We had Mexican and we have black, right? No apology. Jussie Smollett, no apology. Now we've got this PA city worker who says, don't worry, I'm going to find another job. Not like I'm sorry, not like I'm going to apologize to the people in the school board district. Again, a very heinous crime. Planting a noose and racial stuff on your computer, on your desk, and then trying to blame your cohorts and the people that are around you. That's disgusting. Mm-hmm. How many times in the hood do we have fake rape allegations? It's almost every single night. And so you want to know what makes it harder for cops to want to respond to rapes? And we remember we had the whole rape kit allegations countrywide, that the rape kits, where they didn't have enough rape kits and that a lot of them were expired. It's because all of the rape kits are used night after night because prostitutes who don't get paid correctly then claim rape. And it takes tons of manpower and hours only to find out that they admit, because they can't corroborate their stories or that video surveillance footage shows something completely different happening, that they weren't in fact rape. And there's no punishment for that, though. You can't punish somebody for that because, well, the DA say, because then people who are really raped are afraid to come forward, so they won't do it. I mean, putting a burning cross in the middle of the city, in the middle of the town, I mean, you should be in prison. You should be in jail for shit like that.
I agree.
But now we're going to believe these ladies in Oklahoma, as Daniel Holtzclaw, being that there's evidence that shows that Daniel Holtzclaw was not guilty. Again, you can go to our free Holtzclaw project. And I forgot I wanted to bring that in here. So anything, just a big hot mess on the leftist side here, on the Democrat Party. Again, playing checkers, it feels like, with all of these things coming out in the news, but then trying to make a big deal over a very professional group chat about bombing the Houthis in Yemen that really doesn't give out all that much OPSEC. Yeah.
But it's what the left can grab onto. Look how stupid they are, and how inept these people are that Trump put in there.
I wanted to wrap up today's show with yesterday's show with the Coast Guard. They reclassifying some of the Coast Guard to fall under the U.S. Navy, and then that was a bigger story from yesterday. And you'd brought up a good point before the show about that. Do you remember what it was?
Well, the fact that we got David J as a resident expert, but me not being in the military, I'm not completely versed in this. I don't quite understand how that gets reclassified. So I'm completely throwing myself out there that I'm not completely versed. I was trying to read up on it, but it only seems like part of it is, and that's what's confusing to me.
Right. Well, they can't really give up the Coast Guard's DOD classification as a whole because they are the only DOD that can operate on American soil without congressional.
Okay. All right.
Being appointed congressionally or having it signed off. There's a lot of things that the Coast Guard can do without martial law type things. And, this whole drone thing is 100% the Coast Guard. So all this drone technology that they're testing it through the Coast Guard because the Coast Guard's allowed to do it.
Gotcha.
And if you go and listen to that show yesterday, very, 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 very important show. But I thought there was another point that you brought up before the show.
We were talking about the hospitals,
That's right.
terroristic threats at the hospitals, and how it kind of dovetails into last week where you asked me if I think cyber attacks are going to be the next 9/11. Well, reading a couple articles, it said that most of these hospitals are getting hit with ransomware. It's not necessarily explosives. I mean, there are, you do have some shootings and, some actual physical acts of violence, but a lot of it is cyber. So they're going into these systems and completely just wrecking the whole hospital network.
Right.
And even though you could still treat somebody, obviously the hospital's in it for money. So when their whole system's messed up, everything gets throttled down. You know what I mean? So it was just kind of funny because we talked about the cyber attacks last week. So
yeah, it was a good show. Last show of the night, of the day. So the biggest story that we have here is, does Jessica Aber have a medical condition? So if you're not familiar with this, again, mainstream media is kind of covering it, but we're just going to put a different perspective on it. Coming from Newsweek, did Jessica Aber have a medical condition prior to her death, and what you should know? Jessica Aber, the 43-year-old U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, known for overseeing high-profile prosecutions, who was found dead in her Virginia home over the weekend, reportedly had a chronic health condition. Here's the context. According to the Alexandria Police Department, officer responded to a call for an unresponsive woman at Aber's residence around 9:18 a.m. on Saturday. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Authorities have not released an official cause of death and are treating the investigation as standard protocol. Aber's death drew national attention due to her role as the U.S. attorney overseeing significant criminal cases with geopolitical implications. Her tenure included the prosecution of MS-13 gang members, corporate espionage against Siemens Energy, which is a big gas and oil company, and charges against Russian nationals in war crimes case tied to the Ukraine war. Now, that's important too. Former President Joe Biden nominated her to the court in 2021, and at the U.S. Senate confirmed her unanimously. Aber previously served as the assistant U.S. attorney and deputy chief of the criminal division in the Eastern District of Virginia. A family friend told Fox News that Aber had a chronic medical condition, though no specifics were publicly disclosed. They also said that while Aber's passing was unexpected, it is not believed to be suspicious. Aber's death occurred just weeks after she stepped down from her position as the U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. In a press release announcing her departure, she emphasized her commitment to justice and public service. I've had the privilege of spending my career as a prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia, working alongside talented, hardworking public servants who manage matters affecting citizens here across the world. Now, as of now, Aber's cause of death has not been released. The Alexandria Police Department said that the Virginia Office of Medical Examiner that it was natural cause. The authorities have not classified it as suspicious. Investigation is underway under the circumstances. No preliminary cause of death has been given, and they're just investigating it as protocol. Now, here's what Pam Bondi said in a statement. Quote, "The loss of Jessica Aber from U.S. attorney from the former District of Virginia is deeply tragic. Our hearts and prayers go out to her family and friends during this profoundly difficult time." This is from journalist Tim White. Not many 13-year-old professional women just dropped dead. I hate being a conspiracy theorist, but I sincerely hope there is a very thorough and honest post-mortem for Jessica Aber, who died just months after prosecuting Russians for war crimes and assisting Russians' illegal war. So she arrested people, prosecuted Russians that were involved in war crimes and assisting Russia's illegal war, quote unquote. Now, this is why I think that this is significant, because this is why he brings it up. Now, you could say, oh, he's hyperbolic, and why do we have to bring conspiracy theories in? It's because of the fact that there are so many Russians who have died since 2022 alone that have died under very weird causes. This is take it for what it's worth, but this is from Wikipedia. This is an analysis on June 3rd, 2022. Dutch NOS News Network described a phenomenon as a grim series of Russian billionaires, many from the oil and gas industries, who have been found dead under unusual circumstances. Now, I went and started looking up all of these unusual circumstances, and here's what I found. Igor Nasev, 43 years old. By the way, Jessica Aber was 43 years old. CEO of the Far East and Arctic Development Corporation, which is, again, gas and oil. Deputy governor of the Novgorod Oblast. He died on February 2022. He suffered a stroke. Then we had Alexander Tukalov. He had a suicide note found to his body, but he was the deputy general director of Unified Settlement, again, for another gas company. MacLeod Waterford, who was a businessman, he was found in his garage of his residence in England. British authorities have not found evidence of any crime. He died at 66. Unknown causes, by the way. Another one, we have the CEO and owner of MedStorm. Wife and his 2 sons were found dead beside him in his apartment. Now, this is where it gets funny because former vice president of Gazprom Bank, he died with his wife and 13-year-old 1 month later, found dead beside him. So in 1 month, in the span of less than 60 days, we have 3 businessmen, all related to gas and electric companies, all found dead without any explanation. 2 of which in 1 month died with their wife and their kids found dead beside them. And then 1 day later, so that was on April 18th. So on the 23rd of March, in his apartment, Nizhny Novgorod, and his wife Vasily Melnikov was found dead with his wife and 2 sons behind him. On April 18th, just a couple of weeks later, another Russian, Vladislav Evyev of Gazbank, was found dead with his wife and 13-year-old daughter next to him. Then the day after, Sergei Prostyanya was hanged from a handrail. His wife and daughter were found dead in their beds with blunt axe wounds and stab wounds next to him.
Jesus.
The list goes on. In May 1st, right after that, another general director of Estradok and owner of Gazprom. So again, another Gazprom employee. This is the second one in less than 2 months, died from falling off of a cliff with no witnesses. Alexander Subotin of Luke Oil, 7 days later, died from a drug-induced heart attack during a shamanic ritual.
Okay.
Where he died of toad poison. Another CEO of Gazprom, he's a subcontractor, died on July 4th, gunshot wound to the head, pistol found next to his body. Man, Gazprom, don't want to work for Gazprom or Luke Oil. Here's another one from Luke Oil. On September 1st, reportedly hospitalized for heart problems and depression, then fell out of a window in the hospital.
Oops.
Fell out of a hospital window in Moscow from Luke Oil.
Jesus Christ.
Right?
Is that why I'm seeing all these job openings on Indeed?
I mean, bro, this is crazy. Yeah. Here's another one. Another suicide. I mean, dude, the list goes. I mean, it's a lot. It just goes out. I mean, it's all within 4 months of each other, 5 months of each other. Here we go. This guy, Vladimir Mackay, reported to have died 4 days after returning from a collective security treaty organization summit in Armenia, accompanying representatives of Vladimir Putin. He was said by his friends to have been painfully upset by the collapse of the course he was leading. Died of unknown causes. Potentially suicide or depression.
Lots of similarities in many cases, in the fact that you got place of employment, a couple of the MOs, with the families together. I mean,
I'm just saying, I mean, it's not out of the stretch, the realm of possibilities that Jessica Aber, died of natural causes at 43 years old. It's really crazy that you just keep saying died of natural causes. I mean, what's, did she have brain cancer? Did she have stomach cancer? I mean, what would you be trying to hide than putting this out? And then somebody already mentioned in the chats the Clinton health problem. Yeah, I mean, there are, and I love, you always got to go back to Snopes on the Clinton list. When Snopes says that they have the Snopes definition, the fake news of the Clinton kill list is that everybody was just acquaintances. No.
Right.
No, these were lifelong friends of Bill Clinton that were wrapped up in investigations with Bill Clinton. Always since Vince Foster, who was the House. Hang on, I think I can bring it up. I don't want to, just because I wasn't planning on going on this tangent, but one of you brought it up. Does anybody remember? Well, there was Christopher Sign, of course. This is the first article that comes up when you type in Clinton suicides. That was the journalist who had the tarmac meeting. And then, so here, let me just read the article. I'll make it quick. Police in Alabama said this week they're investigating the death of television news reporter who broke the story in 2016 about a tarmac meeting between President Clinton and Loretta Lynch. Died of suicide. That was a really big one. Again, really close, directly connected to the Clintons. But the other one, the one that I was really talking about was, and of course, man, that FBI agent that died, that was like directly, like they said that wasn't, he's another one, but he was directly involved in the Clinton case of the whole email list. That was another big one. I totally forgot about that one. But Vince Foster, that's one I want to look at. It's crazy how you can't even Google these things anymore because they take it off the internet. But Vince Foster was like a lifelong friend. If you remember, he was a lifelong friend of Bill Clinton. And he was here it is right here. Vince Walker Foster Jr. was an American attorney who served as deputy White House counsel during the first 6 months of the Clinton administration. That was another big one that committed suicide. And he was like a lifelong friend of Clinton. So I always like to bring up that Snopes makes a huge mention that that all of these Clinton kill lists were simply acquaintances. No, not the ones that everybody's worried about, not the ones that are tied to blaming Bill Clinton for having ties to Nicaraguan cocaine dealers and Iran-Contra stuff. Remember the boys on the tracks? None of those were all people that were very close. They weren't acquaintances of the Clintons. So I don't know, but I don't think this is a Clinton one so much as that I think I would have to question Russians on this.
What I find perplexing is the fact that they're throwing out there, the medical examiner hasn't even come back yet completely with this Jessica Abers. But
right,
they keep saying that she had a chronic illness, but they won't say what it was.
Right.
Now, the paramedic in me, I want to know. I want to know these things. What's that?
AIDS.
Chronic illness of lack of breathing, apparently, now at this point.
Yeah,
but,
very strange.
I'd like to know that.
Josh says he wants to have Tansy's email. It's tansey.eric@gmail.com. Tansey.eric@gmail.com. Send me an email and I will put you on the email book club, fan. I'm not going to waste your time, but with another ad read, but please go and buy the book, Pig Latin, pre-order it, taking this baby to the moon. We're doing really, really, really good on the pre-order sales. And, I'm really looking forward to this summer, but please, if you're going to buy the book, don't wait until August. Pre-order the book now. Pig Latin, a seriously funny true story. You can do the audio book, the ebook, or the hardcover book. If you order the book, if you pre-order it now, I'm still running this special that if you message me or DM me, I will send you an artist rendition picture of me allegedly tasing a female in the vagina, which is a story in the book. If you pre-order the book and let me know that you pre-order the book, I will send you this. If you pre-order the book for yourself and then pre-order one for a first responder, I will send you the entire series of bookmarks designed by first responder artist Jonathan Bates. So there they all are. Beautiful there. So please go and pre-order the book, Pig Latin, seriously funny true story. Jason from One More and I'm Out of Here podcast. They've got a lot of news coming up. Make sure you head them up as well as the news show, the sports news that they produce here on this channel. Please go and follow One More and I'm Out of Here podcast and support them, support those who support us, all of our sponsors. Again, thank you so much for being here with us today. Sorry for all the confusion and the calamity in today's show. It's hard to stay organized and try to flip through files and all this stuff when you don't have a producer in the background. So I was a little bit discombobulated this morning, and I apologize for that.
I think you did great.
Thank you. G.I. Joe said it the best, though. Maybe you didn't know about all the things we talked about today, which was just so much. But now you do know, and knowing is half the battle. Stay tuned for breaking news whenever it happens right here on your most trusted independent news source, FAWKES News. Share it with a friend. Jill Billy 07 says these oil companies don't need to bother offering retirement plans because it seems few people make it to that point. Yes, never too soon. Thank you, Jill Billy. We'll talk to you guys soon. Until then, guns up, giddy up.
See ya.